Even German language is like that. I have seen STR, then some beta, yes, ye. Hey, what is that? I know what it is. It is STR, beta, SSE. That is what it is. I asked, what is it? 1 beta or 2 betas? I don't remember. My friend told it is stressa. Oh, stressa? What is a stressa? What does stressa means? It is street. Now I got it. You have to rise above the forms of the words, the syllables and the words. You have to rise above to get the meaning. Similarly, you have to rise above these forms of idols and images, etc., to get the divinity. You have to do some such thing, But what happens is, people get stuck with the names and forms. In the case of a language, you now know you don't know the language. You don't care because you know another language. But when it comes to divinity, now you don't know the divinity. In a way, we don't care much for that also because we are busy with our worldly things. Therefore, people, they worship an image for their whole life without rising above the names and forms. Thereby, and that means without getting a hint or intimation of the divinity. Without any intimation of the divinity, they are spending a whole life with the mere names and forms and the rituals associated with them. Something very amazing. You have to think about it. Because you are really talking about Ananya Bhakti, this is one thing you have to think about. You see, this idol or an image is like a writing board for a child. A slate or a writing board with a pen or a pencil is given to the child, a color pencil. And the child learns to write letters on it. And the child keeps it in his bag and he keeps it safe and he doesn't allow anybody else to touch it. It is the writing board of the child and the pen and he will write. Suppose you ask the child to write, hey, oh dear child, you write father. Then he will pull out his writing board and pen and writes F-A-T-H-E-R, he writes. Suppose you give him another piece of paper and a pencil or a pen to write father. He said no, he won't write it. In fact, he will not be able to write. He can write only on his writing board. He practices on his writing board. What is the purpose of that practice? So a day comes when he goes beyond the confines or the limitations of a writing board. He becomes expert in writing these letters and words and sentences. By practice he becomes an expert and he can write anywhere, on any paper he can write, in a conference hall, on a board he can write. He can write the words and sentences anywhere he can write. That is the practice. Similarly, you take an idol. That is like the writing board. You take an idol and learn to see God in it. It is pratika. It is called pratika, symbol. It's a symbol. It is like the passport size photograph, a symbol. You see, what is suppose the young man keeps the passport size photograph of his fiancée in his purse and puts it in his pocket. And now the fiancée has arrived, but still he doesn't look at her. He looks at the passport size photograph only. That is not a very happy situation, right? And I give this example. Must have said it earlier also. In the immigration, our Aadhaar card is there. In the Aadhaar card, the syllables are too small. And you have to cautiously read them. And then the photo is also not, it is a stamp size photo. I was wondering why not they put a little bigger. Anyway, they are still struggling with this Aadhaar card. You have to make 1.3 billion Aadhaar cards, not easy. So they have to refine it. They are doing it. But the photo is like a stamp size. It must be passport size, not stamp size. It is too small. And the security guard, he looks at the photo first. And he returns the Aadhaar card to you and allows you to go in? No. He won't do that. He is not like our devotees. Okay? He looks at the passport size, not even a stamp size photo, and then looks at you. And then cannot correlate immediately because this thing is too small. Then again looks at it, then looks at you. And he grimaces a little and then said, okay, go. That is what he does. In the Dehradun airport, he does that all the time. Really. Because the blessed thing is too small. And then in the immigration in US, he was looking at my passport and looking at me, looking here and looking at me. He says, this doesn't seem to be your photo. He has to confirm that. He is not satisfied with the passport size photograph. He has to correlate it with the real guy. Because he knows it is not real. It is only a pratika. It is only a symbol, an image. It is not real. Image is not the thing. Symbol is not the thing. Word is not the thing too. Below the symbol, a word is written. Swami TV, like that it is written. That is not the thing. He sees a Swami TV on a ticket and sees on the photo, on the identity card and sends you. No. The name, the word is not the thing. The word has to connect with the real guy. The image is not the thing. It has to connect with the real guy. Then he said, no, it doesn't seem like your photo. No, I said, you look again carefully. The face undergoes some changes. You look again. Then he looked again and grimaced once again and said, okay, go. So he allowed me to go. So like that, our pratikopasana has become a sham. It becomes a sham when you do not feel the divinity in that. And I ask you the question, when you look at, say, the image of Sri Krishna or Shiva, whatever, do you feel a sense of wonder and amazement in you or not? If you feel a sense of wonder and amazement in you at the glory of Ishvara that comes to your mind, even as you are looking at the image, then you are able to go beyond the Namarupa, beyond the Pratika. If no such thing happens, you are badly stuck with Namarupa. You have yet to discover what is Bhakti. Therefore, like a child practices on the writing board, then he becomes an expert so that he can write anywhere. So too, when you develop the divine vision, that is the Ananya Bhakti, that is what he is talking about, Sarvairapi karanaihi vasudevadanyat na upalabhyate. That is the divine vision. You visualize Ishvara everywhere, and the Ishvara only, and none other than Ishvara. That is the divine vision. When it is developed, once it is developed, then you don't need idols and pratiks anymore. With idol or without idol, you can feel the divinity. You can enjoy the divine bliss everywhere, with idol or without idol. You need not go to Varanasi to enjoy the divine bliss, or you need not go to Tirupati to enjoy the divine bliss. You need not go to a temple to enjoy the divine bliss. You can enjoy the divine bliss anywhere and any time. That is like a child when he has practiced well, and he becomes a young man who is an expert. He can write anywhere on the board, in the university classroom board, he can write on a piece of paper, he can write in a notebook, he can write anywhere, he can write. He doesn't need his springboard, his writing board only. Right? Suppose you have a small little god put in a small box, and so you carry this little god everywhere, because without that god your worship is not possible. You are like that child. So the pratikopasana, people have to understand its significance. It has a place, but it has a limitation too. It has a place and it has a limitation. So this is the external worship, the idol worship, or pratikopasana, which is the external worship. You may take it as a necessary thing in the early stages of divine vision. It is only meant, it has a very limited purpose. It is meant only to this much, to help us enjoy the divine vision everywhere. That is its purpose. This is lost. Somewhere in the temple worship situation, this is lost. So when you worship, when you go to the temple and worship, or they help you worship, the priests etc., they help you worship, the entire approach is, this alone is divinity. That is the entire approach. The approach is not to train the person to grow into divine vision so that he can feel the divine bliss everywhere. That is not the approach. Right? That is a huge disadvantage with the worship of images that has become the order of the day. So when you develop the divine vision by worshipping an image to begin with, and you worship it the right way, so that it helps you to grow into the divine vision, and in which vision you see the divinity everywhere. When such a state is achieved, that is the Ananya Bhakti. When such a state is achieved, the whole world becomes a temple of God. That is the Ananya Bhakti. Whole world becomes the temple of God. Every object turns into Godhood. And finally, whatever you do becomes worship. This is said by Shankara in a few places. So, yadyat karma karome tattad akhilam shambho tavaradhanam. I lie down, that is worship of Ishvara. I sit, that is worship of Ishvara. I go round, that is worship of Ishvara. I speak, that is worship of Ishvara. I give something, that is worship of Ishvara. I take something, that is worship of Ishvara. Like they serve food, I take it, that is worship of Ishvara, because I take it with love and with the sense of divine blessing. And it is prasadam, therefore that becomes worship of Ishvara. And when I give a fruit to a kid, it is worship of Ishvara, because the kid, there is Ishvara in the kid. Like that, every act becomes a worship of Ishvara. You should not misinterpret it. Suppose I file a lawsuit against my adversary, is that a worship of Ishvara? You should not misinterpret it like that. Okay? I abuse somebody, is that also worship? You should not misinterpret. Okay? Don't do that. You take whatever I said in the right spirit. So every act becomes a worship of Ishvara, means you take it in the right spirit. Okay? That is the Ananya Bhakti. Quite often, a question is asked, how to cultivate Bhakti. I will deal with it in the next class, but for the present we will look at it. Then Shankara, aham evam vidhaha vishwarupa prakaraha he Arjuna. So that is what I was describing. So here Shri Krishna says, evam vidhaha aham Arjuna. You have to be devoted to me in this form. Evam vidhaha. What is evam vidhaha? This is the Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga. 11th chapter it is. You see, there is a method called Vyasa Paddhati. It is not the Paddhati of Mr. Vyasa. No. It is Vyasa Paddhati. Vyasa is a way of writing a poem, etc. And so that Paddhati is in the last chapter of the Gita, any chapter, in the last chapter, except 18th, he will present the topic of the entire vision of the next chapter in a nutshell, in one verse. And that verse is generally either the ultimate verse or the penultimate verse. This verse is called Sutram. It is Sutrasthaniyaha Shlokaha. It is a verse which occupies the place of a sutra. Sutra means an aphorism like verse. And now the chapter ends on that note, and the next chapter begins. So now we know what is the topic of the next chapter. This verse is the main topic that comes in the next chapter. Therefore, if you want to study Bhakti Yoga, you should not start with the first verse of 12th chapter. You start it with the ultimate or penultimate or both verses of the earlier chapter. That is how it is given to you in that handout. And in the handout, the sequence is also slightly altered here and there. I have altered it to fit into a scheme of teaching that I wanted to do. Okay? You don't be surprised by that. Okay? So, therefore, this verse and the next verse, Mat Karma Karan Mat Paramaha, they occupy the place of two aphorisms, two sutras. And the entire 12th chapter is an elaboration of these two sutras. That is one important point. And so here we are talking of the worship or the devotion to Ishvara, who is evam vidhaha. That is highlighted by Shankara in his Bhashya in this verse and also in the entire 12th chapter. He will repeat it again. Evam vidhaha means Vishwarupa Prakaraha. Now you should have a correct appreciation of Vishwarupa, the word Vishwarupa. You see, Vishwarupa we have converted into an image in which there is a central person standing with one head, and there are heads and heads and heads on the right side, heads and heads and heads on the left side. It could be a pratika, a symbol, because all are not human heads. Some are different heads. All kinds of animals are represented as those heads. That is a saving feature, a saving grace in that figure. So that means what? Here is the Godhead, the God, and every head in this creation, that is Sahasra Shirusha, Purushaha, Ishvaraha, he has infinite heads. Sahasra is infinite. So that infinite heads. So you should not imagine that there is a person standing there with countless heads this side and countless heads that side. That is not the way to look at that. That becomes a very weird thing it is, you know. You should not end up in believing in such weird things. It is not like that. The countless heads means every head that roams on this earth. Every head means every person. That every head is Bhagavan's head. That is the idea. Is Ishvara's head. That is the Vishwarupa. Therefore, the five elements are the manifest forms of Ishvara, and every life form is the manifest form of Ishvara. And you look at the world that way. That is called Vishwarupa Darshanam. You see, you don't try to convert Vishwarupa into some esoteric, mysterious thing displayed by the God at a given time to somebody. Don't try to put it that way. It was described like that, but you should rise above all these descriptions. Like you read the words and sentences and rise above the form to get the meaning. Similarly, you rise above that description, which sounds like a historic event or which sounds like a storyline, but you rise above those story details to capture the vision implied in that story. The vision is Vishwarupa Sandarshanam. What is the Vishwarupa? You put Sarva in the place of Vishwa. So, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. That is the Vishwarupa. So that is Aham Evam Vidhaha, Evam Prakaraha, means Vishwarupa Prakaraha. That is the bhakti. You must be devoted to Ishvara, who is manifest, whose manifest form is this universe. In Mandukya I don't use the word manifest. Here I am using it. I have compromised myself and I am using it. Okay, you please appreciate that. So, all the five elements are the manifest Ishvara. The real and blissful aspects of those elements help me to relate with the divine bliss, and there is divinity in every life form. Everywhere there is divinity. Now you can understand why you should not hurt any other life form. Why you should not hurt. No himsa. Why not? Because it is as much divine as you are. So it is a lot more than ethics and morals. In ethics and morals we say Every life form has a right to life. And so you should, as much as you have, therefore you should live and let live. That is the ethics and moral aspect of it. What I said is a lot higher than that. It is not just ethics and moral. It is ethical and moral. It is ethical and moral, not to hurt. But it is the divine vision that stops you from hurting another life form. So that is the Ananya Bhakti. That is the way in which you look at divinity as Vishvarupa. We'll continue. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam